In this video, we'll talk about a percentage problem, and this may be the first part of a series, and we'll just kind of see how it goes, and if we have more desire for these problems, we can make more of these videos. So let's talk about an example here. Let's say I want to buy a candy bar that cost me $3.50, and I want to know what is it actually going to cost if there's a 3% sales tax. Now, how sales tax works is it's going to add to the cost. So the price sticker I see is $3.50, but then they're going to tack on 3% more when I check out at the register. They're going to add 3%, and it makes sense that, okay, if I buy more, then I'm going to pay more in sales tax in terms of dollar for dollar. Now, it's always going to be 3% of whatever I buy, but in this case, we're trying to figure out, okay, how much is it going to cost? Say I have $3.58 in my pocket. Is it going to be enough? And there's a bunch of ways we could go about this problem, and that's why these things are kind of complicated, is that there are many possible solutions here. Well, I guess only one possible solution, but many routes to get to that solution. So let's take a look at this problem. So couple of things that are worth noting is that the candy bar is $3.50, and we have a 3% sales tax. So the first way I like to look at these is I like to use a double number line. It's a neat visual, and it makes it to where even if I don't necessarily know what's going on, I can start filling in some information that I do know. So on the bottom, I'll have the percentage, and on the top, I'll have cost. So I think we can agree that if I had 100% sales tax, I would pay an extra $3.50. So 100% would be $3.50, and I think we can all agree that if I have 0%, that's $0. If there is no sales tax, I do not pay anything extra. And the real question is, all right, how do I get to 3%? And that's a good question. I'm not seeing necessarily a clear way to get from 100 to 3 with multiplication or division, but there are a few things we can do here. We could perhaps figure out what 10% would be pretty easily. So if we just divide by 10, we're moving the decimal over, that would be 35 cents, or 0.35 if we're talking dollars, which then we could say, okay, well, then 1% would be pretty easy to get to as well. So 1% would be a tenth, again, of the 0.35, so 0.035. And now I'm looking at this and I'm thinking, okay, I can multiply by 3 to figure out what this 3% is. And if I do that, it turns out I get 0.105. So it's a little weird given the context because we're talking about half cents. So there's a couple routes we can go here. Either we're looking at 10 cents or we're looking at 11 cents. For the sake of the video, let's go ahead and round up. Let's say this is 0.11, 11 cents, because a store would probably round up in that case if they're charging you for it. Now, if you're looking at a bank, they're going to cut it off and they'll say, oh, you only earned 10 cents. Basically, whatever way is most inconvenient for you, that's the method they're going to pick. So then we can say it's a tax. I add it on, so I'm going to take $3.50 plus the 11 cents, which means it's going to be $3.61. That would be the cost. Now, like I said, there's more ways to do it. This is just one way, and I will walk through a couple of those. But this is one way using a double number line. So let's talk about how to do this with equations. So if we're thinking about this, my candy bar costs $3.50, and I'm going to add 3% of that back to it. So there's two kind of schools of thought here. One is I take the $3.50 and I'm going to add 3%. Now remember, 3% is a decimal, is 0.03. And you could also think of it as 3 over 100. That's what the percent means, 3 out of 100. And I'm going to take 3% of the 3.5, which would indicate multiplication. So I have 0.03 times 3.5, and I'm going to add it back on. Now, if I do that, This little bit here will turn into that 0.105, which again, for our purposes, let's call it 11 cents, which we can agree will make $3.61. Now another route here is I can look at this and think, okay, if I'm adding 3% to this, technically that would mean that it's 103% of the original price. I'm paying a little bit more. So I can convert this into a decimal as 1.03. So I'm going to take 1.03, 103% of the 3.5. And if I go that route, I will also get $3.61. Just another way of doing the same thing. And the idea is we're using expressions or equations. We're trying to set up kind of a numeric representation of what's going on here. Now, one other method that we can employ here would be the use of a proportion. So what we can do is we can say, okay, the 3%, it's 3 out of 100, is equal to, let's call it x out of 3.5. Now the idea is I'm lining up the 100% with the $3.50, kind of like I do with the double number line. And the thing I don't know is the percent. I don't know what the cost is. This x here would find for me the extra bit I have to add. So we can cross multiply. So we can say 3 times 3.5 is equal to 100 times x. And then we would divide both sides by 100. So if we take, well, let's do 3 times 3.5 here. If we take 3 times 3.5, we get 10.5. We're going to divide that by 100. And if we do that, we will get 0.105. Looks familiar. Now that's what x is, and in this case, x is that little extra tax that I'm going to add on. So if I do that, let's round up to 11. And then I would say, okay, again, it's $3.61. Lots of ways you could do it. You could also set up your proportion to be the 103%. Cross multiply, and then in that case, x would be the actual amount you pay, which in this case would work out to be $3.61, if you go that way. Lots of ways to do these problems. At the end of the day, it doesn't matter which one you use, so long as you have a method that works for you.